Hello guys, welcome back. Now in this session, we are going to discuss about Terraform attributes. So let's look into the agenda. What are the topics we are going to cover? So guys, in this session, we will start with a demo where we will write first the TF file to create a S3 bucket within the AWS. Then we will know about what actually the attributes is and how we can access the resource attributes. So guys, let's jump into the Visual Studio Code and where we will write the TF file for creating a S3 resource in AWS. If you are not having Visual Studio Code editor, you can use any of the text editor and run within any of the terminal. As I already mentioned that Visual Studio Code gives us feasibility to write the code and execute the code without leaving the screen. So it is very handy. So that's the reason I prefer to write the code within Visual Studio Code that I have already mentioned to you. Anyway, let's proceed to the Visual Studio Code. So guys, for this session, I have created a new folder and within that folder, I am going to create a file and we name it as s3aws.tf. So now let's start writing the code. But prior to writing the code, make sure that you specified the section. First, we will specify the configuration for the Terraform. Then we will specify the configuration for the provider. And then at last, we will provide the configuration for the resources which we want to create. So in this case, we are going to create the resource S3. Now let's specify the provider information. So we will call that Terraform, and within the Terraform block I will specify the required provider information, which provider I want. So here I need to specify that AWS equal to, and within that I will specify the source, and the source is, as you already know, that we are having HashiCorp and /AWS. So we are done with the Terraform block. As we are writing the code for AWS infrastructure, so we need to specify the provider as HashiCorp /AWS. Next, we need to specify the provider block. So for that, we need to specify the keyword provider, and then we need to specify the which provider. It should be AWS, and within that we need to specify some of the arguments. So what is those arguments? We will first tell profile. So we need to specify that we are going to use default profile. Next, we need to specify where we want to create the resource. This I have already mentioned that, and we are going to use the North Virginia region, that is US-East-1. So we need to tell that US-East-1. I'm not going to mention version over here because I want to use the latest version of the provider. So I will leave it as is. Now next, we need to create the resource S3. So to create the resource, we need to first use the keyword resource keyword, and then we need to specify which resource we want to create. So here we need to specify AWS underscore S3 underscore bucket, and then we need to specify that what is the name of the bucket we want to keep. So I will tell that demo underscore bucket underscore S3. So this is our resource name, that is resource block. Now I want to specify the bucket name which we want to create. So on what name we want to create the bucket in AWS. So I need to specify that. Over here we will tell that bucket equal to, and the name of the bucket we want to keep. So we will tell that demo bucket. So as I already mentioned that these things are fixed because this is the block by which Terraform comes to know that which resource we want to create. And with the help of this, we are telling that we want to create AWS S3 bucket. So now let's save it. Now you must be asking that if I don't get the reference, if I don't remember all these syntax, where we can check this information. Suppose if I want to create some other resource within AWS, then I already mentioned in one of the session, you have to always refer the Terraform registry where all the documentation is being maintained about each of the providers. So let's look into that once again. So you must remember this page. Over here you come to AWS, and within that you will get the documentation link, and within the documentation you will search. So for example, if we want to search for S3 bucket, so here you will get the reference of all the information about S3 bucket. For example, if we are using AWS underscore S3 bucket to create it, so here you will see the information about how we can use the resource and what are the argument we should pass to it. Anyway, this you already know, which I have discussed. So guys, let's run it and then we will discuss about what actually the attributes are. So to execute it, you need to go to the view, enable the terminal, and you need to specify Terraform init enter. So it is started installing the provider. Next, we need to run the Terraform plan. So guys, it has given us a plan and you will see it over here. Now, one thing you should notice that In each of the plan, Terraform is giving us most of the things. You will get it over here, no after apply. So what actually these things are? So basically these things are attributes. Some of the attributes you come to know instantly, and some of the attribute comes into existence after creation of the resource. So now the question comes over here is what actually the attributes are. So in simple term, attributes are nothing but a properties of the resource which we are creating, and with the help of these different properties we can utilize that resource in our infrastructure. And these properties vary from resource to resource because all objects are not same way all resources are not same. Each resources have their own functionality and each resources have their own usage. In this case, we are creating S3 bucket, and you will see that whichever the attribute which is related to the S3 bucket which we are getting over here. Now let's proceed further and create this S3 bucket, and then we will verify whichever the thing which is mentioned over here, no after apply. We will check the details about these attributes. So to create the S3 bucket, I need to tell that Terraform apply enter. So it will create the S3 bucket in AWS. So here it is asking for confirmation. Make sure that you are specifying yes over here. Then only it will create the S3 bucket. It is throwing some error, so we need to change the name. So better we can tell that demo bucket S3, and over here we will change it some name like so that it will not complain. I will tell that cloud pragati hyphen demo 14589 and save it. Now let's try to run it again, and this time I'm going to write again Terraform apply enter. Make sure that you are specifying yes over here. Now it is creating the S3 bucket. Now it has created the resource. Now let's check the attribute which was mentioned as known after apply. So where you can check that? So the place you have to check it is the Terraform state file tf.state. So here you will check all those attributes which was mentioned no after apply. For example, ID is this one, cloud pragati hyphen demo 14589. Same way you come to know that bucket domain name and all those attributes which you want to use, that you can use it by checking into the attribute key of the JSON. So within this JSON file you will see that we are having the attribute block, and all those attribute which is associated with this particular resource, you will get it over here. Now the question over here is, suppose that if you want to get attribute information at the runtime, how do you will get it? That is our next topic to discuss, that I will cover in next session. For this session, this is what I wanted to demonstrate you in. But prior to closing the session, let's go to the AWS and we will verify that whatever the bucket which we have created, whether it is existing or not, we will verify that. So let's go to the AWS. So we are into the AWS console, and over here go to S3, and when we will go to S3, then you will see that the bucket which we have created, and over here you will see that we have created this bucket which ID is cloud pragati hyphen demo 14589, and all information about the resources you will get into the attribute block of the JSON file within the TF state. So over here you will see that the ID which is being mentioned, and this is the attribute block. If you want to verify other properties or say other attributes, you click on this and you will verify those property. For example, over here it is mentioned MFA delete disabled. So you can go to the attribute and check about this. Over here within the attribute section, if you will come, we are having the versioning, and over here you will see that MFA underscore delete is being false. So this way you can play with the resources. You come to this file and verify the actual properties which exist within the infrastructure for a resource. For this example, we are using AWS, and you can get the attribute information or say property information about that particular resource. So now we are done with the session. Make sure that you should destroy the resources, else it will be charged. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code and let's destroy this. So let's write Terraform destroy enter. It will ask for your confirmation. Make sure that you are specifying yes over there. We are going to specify yes over here. Now the resource has been deleted. So now we are done with the session. Let's wrap the session. So guys, we have started with the demo, and where we have created the S3 bucket, and then we have understand what actually the attributes is and where to check the resource attribute. So we have gone to the TF state file where we will get all the information about the resource attribute. So guys, so far whatever we have done, we are just manually accessing the resource attribute information. But in certain scenarios, or say most of the scenario, whenever we are writing the ISE code, we require to use one resource information to the other resource. So in that scenario, we need to get the resource attribute information at the runtime. So how we can achieve this, we will look into in our next session, that is Terraform output. So on this note, I am stopping over here. See you in the next session. Till then, bye bye, take care.